And there's intimacy on the radio, and there's naturalness on the radio that can never be replicated on TV. The marvelous resurgence of radio as a political force in this country.
News-related radio programming is evolving.
There's a huge hole in our dialogue that can be filled by the synthesis of traditional radio and the freedom that comes from a live podcast. You're about to experience Cowboy State Politics live. Here we go. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to another fantastic installment from very, very high above all the puerile and insipid forms of Wyoming mainstream media. This is Cowboy State Politics. I, of course, am your illustrious host, David Iverson, firmly ensconced behind the silver Cowboy State Politics microphone and broadcasting to you from the base of the Bighorns at the Cowboy State Politics studio in Sheridan, Wyoming. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the program. Happy Friday. Finally. You know, we wait all year long, or at least all winter long, for Memorial Day weekend, and that's where we're at. So just before I get started this morning, I want to kind of give you a roadmap of where I'm going to take the program in the next few weeks or so. Of course, it is Memorial Day weekend, and while I will have an episode of the podcast tomorrow, I always do on Memorial Day, and I think it's important to be able to take a step back and just get some perspective on what it is that we're celebrating, why it is that we take the day off on Monday, and what the whole day is about. So that'll be tomorrow's episode of the podcast. And then on Monday, of course, is Memorial Day, and even I need a day off. No, I'm not shirking my duties at all. I just have to take a day off. And the truth is, the lovely Christine and I are taking a little weekend trip. So going to take off Memorial Day, but I will be back at it on Wednesday. Won't be any Cowboy State Politics live on Tuesday as I'll be traveling back. So anyway, we're going to take a quick, short break, and then we'll be back on Wednesday. And of course, the program will roll on. But on today's show, it's Open Line Friday. That's right, my friends. Open Line Friday on Cowboy State Politics Live. This is the day of the week where we're going to talk about whatever you want to talk about. I don't really care what it is. Hopefully it's interesting. But normally during the week, we just talk about what's on my mind. And if you happen to call in and something else piques my interest, well, then yeah, I'll talk to you. But on Friday, I'm going to answer every call I can, and we'll just talk about whatever's on your mind. So if you want to be part of today's program, the phone number here in the Cowboy State Politics studio, the original Cowboy State Politics studio, is 307-374-8989. 307-374-8989. Again, it's Open Line Friday, so if you want to be on the program, go ahead and give me a call, and we'll chat about whatever's on your mind. But we begin this morning with the Times of Israel. Now, this has been going on for a while, and I haven't touched it because, frankly, I think it's kind of a big nothing burger. The jet that Qatar is giving the United States to replace Air Force One. Now, you may have a couple of questions. First, why do we need to replace Air Force One? It's one of the most advanced aircraft in the country. Well, it's also old, really old, and it hasn't been replaced in a really long time. And the country of Qatar said that they were going to give, the media reported it as give, President Trump the plane, the 747. But that's not exactly correct. They're giving it to the United States, and it's going to be retrofitted to have all the capabilities of Air Force One. From the Times of Israel, in an article entitled, U.S. accepts $400 million Qatari luxury jet for use as Trump's new Air Force One. And I quote, the United States has accepted a 747 jetliner as a gift from Qatar, and the Air Force has been asked to find a way to rapidly upgrade it for use as the new Air Force One. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth accepted the $400 million Boeing-made jet for use as the U.S. president's official plane. Pentagon spokesperson Sean Parnell told the Defense Department that, quote, we will work to ensure proper security measures and functional mission requirements are considered. Legal experts have questioned the scope of laws relating to gifts from foreign governments that aim to thwart corruption and improper influence. Democrats have also sought to block the handover. Qatar has dismissed concerns about the aircraft deal. Trump has also shrugged off ethical concerns, saying it would be stupid not to accept the jet. Retrofitting the luxury plane offered by Qatar's royal family, will require significant security upgrades, communications improvements to prevent spies from listening in, and the ability to fend off incoming missiles. That could cost hundreds of millions of dollars. The precise costs were not known, but could be significant given the cost for Boeing's current effort to rebuild 2 new Air Force One planes is over $5 billion. Now, here is the rub of the whole thing. Why is it taking Boeing years to build 2 new versions of Air Force One? I mean, it's one of the most advanced aircraft companies in America. So why is it that it's taking so long? Well, it shouldn't be. And when you have an order to build a plane for the president, I think that you would put a move on it, but maybe not. So the Air Force One program has faced chronic delays, and this is, again, according to the Times of Israel. Over the last decade, with the delivery of 2 new 747-8s slated for 2027, 3 years behind the previous schedule. Boeing in 2018 received a $3.9 billion contract to build the 2 planes for use as Air Force One. Though costs have since risen, Boeing has also posted a $2.4 billion in charges from the project. So the original grant was for $3.9 billion. And they've already posted $2.9 billion. So what is they've already billed out the majority of that contract. So why should we assume that they're going to have it finished on time? Well, you wouldn't. If the company that you've contracted with isn't delivering, and you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting, any smart business person is going to say to the heck with you. We're going to go with a different company, a different option, one that can actually be delivered. Now, keep in mind, the contract was what did it say, in 2019? Yeah, 2018 received a contract for $3.8 billion. So we're already 7 years past the letting of that contract. You would think that Boeing would be able to deliver on it and would be able to actually, produce a plane that, that the U.S. president could use. But apparently not so. Anyway, now we have a gift from the country of Qatar, and it's going to be Air Force One. Now, there are some other concerns surrounding this, and a lot of talking heads in the media, including some of the ones that I'm kind of a fan of, have said that this is a really, really bad idea to accept a gift from Qatar. And the reason why is Qatar has been a state sponsor of terrorism. Whoopsie. So there's an ethical concern. Now, I didn't pull up any articles to say when that was, but the U.S. has been negotiating with the country of Qatar and their royal family for quite some time. So there are concerns, but if they're going to give you a $500 million jet, I don't see the problem with it. As long as we go over it with a fine-tooth comb and there's no undue influence by the Qatari government, I don't see any problem with it. And a lot of times, I do think that perceptions matter, and that how a lot of times perception is reality. But I don't think it's so in this case. If the U.S. and specifically Donald Trump are, upfront about the whole thing and completely fair and open, I don't see any reason why that this would be such a big deal. I don't think that it is. And so, hey, man, we got a $500 million jet as a gift. I think we should take it and roll on. Let's see here. What are we doing time-wise? All right. So this next piece, you know what? yeah, I think we're going to go ahead and take a quick break, and then we'll come back, and I want to return to the discussion of the South African president in the White House. I covered it a little bit on yesterday's program, but I've got some more sound from CNN, of all places. So Scott Jennings, I really like him. If you haven't, I mean, I don't know if there's any reason why you would watch CNN. I don't. But they do have a guy on there that is pretty conservative. His name is Scott Jennings, and he's got something to say about how President Trump handled the South African president in the White House. So we'll take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about that. You are listening to Cowboy State Politics Live. You can listen to the program on YouTube, on Facebook, on X, on Rumble, pretty much everywhere. It's almost like I'm omnipresent. If you miss an episode of Cowboy State Politics Live, you can always go to the live replay, which is located at the website, cowboystatepolitics.com, under the live replay button. You can listen to Cowboy State Politics Live every Tuesday through Friday at 8 a.m. You can listen to the Cowboy State Politics podcast anywhere that you get your podcasts. iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, really any of them will work. But the easiest place is just to go to the website, cowboystatepolitics.com. There you can find all of the shows, as well as any of the articles that I might bring up during the course of a program. That way, if your name is Joe Biden and you can't remember if you had your pudding today, well, I probably can't help you with that, but I can definitely tell you why you should have never ran for president. And now, back to our program. Welcome back to the program, Cowboy State Politics Live on YouTube, Facebook, X, and on Rumble. Pretty much anywhere that you get your podcasts, your news, and frankly, I don't even know why you would want to get your news from anywhere else. You may as well just get it from Cowboy State Politics, Wyoming's most listened to political program. Documented to be almost always right 99% of the time. A record that nobody in the mainstream media can even come close to. Well, anyway, welcome back to the program, my friends. It's Open Line Friday. If you want to be part of the show, the phone number here in the studio is 307-374-8989. 307-374-8989. That's the number right here in the studio. And as you can see, we're back in the original Cowboy State Politics studio today. I'm not exactly sure what my partner in crime, Agent 29, is up to. He's off gallivanting around, being lazy. I don't know. Who knows what's going on with that guy? But in any case, we are back here, and I'm moving through the program with you. Again, Open Line Friday, and if you want to be part of the show, go ahead and give me a call. Anything you want to talk about, I'll entertain it. So yesterday on the show, and this one I think is a tremendously important story for the simple reason that for a very long time, the U.S. president or whomever's in charge has not called a spade a spade. There have been a lot of things that happen in the world that I don't want to say that we're turning a blind eye to, but some folks at the upper echelons of power in our country kind of are turning a blind eye to it. And one of those is the genocide that is happening in South Africa. And this one's a sticky one because the United States historically supported apartheid. Now, apartheid was the racist system in South Africa that kept whites in power over the black majority. Well, the tides have kind of shifted now. Apartheid is over, and now it's exactly the opposite. And those folks that are in power are perpetrating a genocide against white farmers. And it is absolutely a Marxist-influenced operation. And it's we need to call it for what it is. I mean, they're murdering people and taking their land. That's what tyrants do. That's what Marxists do, which, by the way, the whole thing is Marxist-influenced. So anyway, the other day, Trump had the South African president in the Oval Office, and the guy is trying to say how his country supports freedom and everything is great in South Africa. And then Trump confronts him with a video montage that is evidence of what's going on in that country. And yesterday I played a little bit of this for you, but let me go ahead and play a little bit more. And we'll just to remind you of what happened. So this is President Trump confronting the South African president. Here you go. Let's see here. Get to the soundbite. Here we go, right there.
Policy is completely against what he was saying, even in the parliament. And they're a small minority party, which is allowed to exist in terms of our constitution.
But you do allow them to take land.
No.
You do allow them to take land.
Nobody can
and
take
then when
land.
they take the land, they kill the white farmer. And when they kill the white farmer, nothing happens to them.
No, there is
nothing happens to them.
There is criminality in our country. People who do get killed, unfortunately, through criminal activity, are not only white people. Majority of them are black people.
Oh, really?
And we have now
The farmers are black. The farmers are not black. I don't say that's good or bad, but the farmers are not black.
Okay, so anyway, there you have President Trump confronting this. I don't know. I think I might be a criminal. I mean, if you're trying to cover up a genocide, you are definitely in the criminal category. But one of the reasons I say this is an important episode, and one that I don't think that we should gloss over, is that for too long we have, silence. Here's the thing. Silence is compliance. Like if there is something wrong that's happening and you don't say something about it, then you are complicit in it. That you are the person that is validating whatever's happening just because you're not in opposition to it. Now, you may personally disagree with it. You may be one of those people that say, I don't really want to get involved in this. But because you don't present any, if you're not calling it out for what it is and you have the ability to change it, I mean, that kind of makes you just as guilty as the people that are doing it. Now, I realize this is the argument that all these anti-racist people use. But this is actually happening. There is a genocide that is happening in South Africa. There are a lot of white farmers that are being murdered, and their property is being taken and reappropriated. So over on CNN, they were discussing this whole situation, and the Scott Jennings, who is probably the lone conservative over at CNN, talk about a lonely job, but often he pipes up and he says, no, you guys aren't right. And he did that the other day. So this piece is entitled, and I think it's from the Daily Wire. But anyway, it's entitled, "A Boss Move. Scott Jennings says Trump confronting South African president over white farmers had to happen." This is what I'm talking about. This is why this is so important. And I quote, Republican strategist Scott Jennings said Wednesday that President Donald Trump had to confront South African President Cyril Ramaphosa over the persecution of white farmers. Trump ordered staffers to dim the lights as he played a video of economic freedom fighters, that's what they're calling themselves, leader Julius Malema leading a crowd in singing a song titled Kill the Boer. Jennings told the Arena guest host, Pamela Brown, that Trump's decision to play the video was a boss move. Quote, well, look, whether you call it genocide or not, and that's another piece of this whole thing. All the lefties, the liberals and the redcoats are saying, well, this really isn't genocide. That's kind of sidestepping the argument to try to force a discussion over a definition. It doesn't wipe away everything that's actually been happening, that white farmers are being killed in droves and their land is being taken. So, I mean, those people who want to discuss whether or not this fits the definition of genocide, I mean, and to me, that's probably worse than not saying anything, because you're trying to redirect the conversation away from what's actually happening. But here's what Scott Jennings said on CNN. Take a listen to this.
What is the function of the Supreme Court of the United States?
Anyone born in the United States.
Whether genocide or not, the facts are,
okay.
Look, whether you call it a genocide or not, the facts are white farmers in South Africa have been murdered. A lot of people have tried to cover this up. A lot of people in, I think, media in the United States have tried to cover it up. Obviously, the South African government doesn't want to talk about it, so it was kind of a boss move for Donald Trump to roll that television in there today. And I think even the agriculture minister in the Oval Office confirmed that these people are, in fact, being murdered. So my question is, if it's not a genocide today, how many do we want to let get murdered so that people around here can be satisfied? Okay, now it's a genocide. Let's let a few more. I don't understand. We're talking about 50-something people they were trying to let in, and everybody's losing their mind after we let in 20 million illegal immigrants over the last several years. The president is trying to prevent genocide from happening any further to these people. They are clearly being discriminated against. Some have been murdered. This was an interesting spectacle in the Oval Office today, but it had to happen because I don't think anybody was telling the truth about it.
See, there you go.
Yeah, so I think the use of the word genocide is wildly irresponsible and probably not helpful. At the same time, I think the real takeaway from this.
Okay, so that last guy was Jonah Goldberg. Now, Jonah Goldberg was one of the pseudo-conservatives who I'm pretty sure that he was writing for National Review. But anyway, he's one of these people in the media that like to paint himself as a conservative, as a Republican, but he's really not. He's one of the never-Trumpers. He's been on that train for a really long time. And you heard him right there at the end say, well, I don't think this use of the term genocide is helpful at all. I don't think that really matters. I don't think that that's part of the conversation. And I think that any attempt to nudge the conversation into that area is an attempt to deflect away from what's actually happening. And that is that there are droves of white farmers in South Africa that are being murdered, and their land and their homes are being taken from them. Now, add on top of this that there's been a real recent move to get some of these white farmers into the United States under asylum claims. Now, again, I can hear the left already saying, well, you wouldn't let, you argued against asylum from all of these Mexicans and people that cross the border. There is a big difference between a legitimate asylum claim and one that is made up just so you can get across the southern border. This one is a legitimate request in that if they stay in their home country, they will be murdered. Now, and this is also another example of where events that are happening, half a world away affect us right here in home. There's a gal that goes to our church, and her son was among the people that were killed in South Africa simply because he was white. And so, don't think that just because we live in, an isolated state that many of us live in isolated communities many miles away from other larger towns, that these world events don't affect us, because they absolutely do. Now, to complicate the matter, the Episcopal Church has announced that it is going to end its cooperation with the United States government in resettling migrants after the Trump administration announced the arrival of the first group of Afrikaner farmers. That's what they're called, Afrikaners. The president, quote, the president is trying to prevent genocide from happening any further to these people. That's Scott Jennings. They are clearly being discriminated against. Some have even been murdered. A lot of them have been murdered. In that video that President Trump played in the Oval Office, there's a highway, and it stretches for miles and miles, and there's crosses lined up on either side of the road, and in the video, you can't see an end to them. Every single cross is a grave site. And so, this is a humanitarian problem. It is a genocide when you're selectively targeting a group of people just because of the color of their skin or their religion or whatever. And I absolutely think that President Trump is doing the right thing to do. I think he's doing the right thing. When there's evil happening in our world and you have the power to change it and you do nothing, in my opinion, you are just as guilty as the people that are, well, not just as guilty, but at least you're condoning it through your silence. So good job, President Trump. I think it's a high time that we in America really do walk the walk instead of just talking the talk, that we do speak out against these things, and that if it is in our power to stop them, we do that. Let's see here. What time we got? Man, this program is just rolling through today. Let's see here. The next story. Oh, yeah. You guys remember this? They told you that democracy was on the ballot. Mm-hmm. Yep, they absolutely did. That if you didn't vote against Donald Trump, then you were voting against democracy. The whole irony in the whole thing is they were asking you to vote for somebody that was never going to be in charge in the first place. Fascinating. Well, let's see here. But actually, you know what? Before I get there, let's go ahead and let's see if I got everything set up here. Let's go ahead and talk to Jerry in Rock Springs. Jerry, been a long time. How you been, my friend?
Oh, I've been pretty good. Been busy fighting with Facebook and all the other Marxist organizations.
Fair enough.
Yes, this thing with South Africa has been going on for too long.
Decades.
And it's been a long time. And if not for Trump, I don't believe anyone would be talking about it.
No, I think
because right now he's the only one talking about it.
Yep. And, the folks that were in his office before him, they didn't say a word about it. And this has absolutely been going on for decades. And, Joe Biden and the humanitarians, or the self-proclaimed humanitarians on the left, they didn't say a word about it. I don't know if they didn't want to get involved, or they were incapable of getting involved, or what the heck was going on, but they didn't do anything about it, for sure.
I think right now, except for what Trump's doing, America needs to pray for Africa, blacks and whites, because these people are, they don't know what they're doing. They're being led in the dark.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it, too, is there's a ton of misinformation that's going around. You heard in that Scott Jennings clip that I played that, the folks on the left, they're saying, well, it's not genocide. And they're screaming bloody murder about letting, pardon the pun, about letting 50 Afrikaners into the country when they were the folks that let 20 million across our border. I mean, it is hypocrisy at the highest level.
Yeah, it's sickening what's happening, and it seems to be getting worse. I was hoping things would, especially in our news, would get better. You're one of the only outlets right now that I'm getting a notice for. And going to Facebook, I hate to get off topic.
No, it's open line Friday, man. We can talk about what you want to talk about.
Okay, Facebook is attacking all the conservative groups, and there are a lot of really good conservative groups on Facebook. I mean, with thousands and thousands, some of them hundreds of thousands of members. And I help moderate two different very good pages. It's been around since Trump started running. And I'm a moderator, and we have moderators in other groups and admins even of private pages that are being blocked. We cannot post any news. I can post news to my page, but no one can see it. I cannot share it to any groups. I can't, do anything. And it's getting wild. And plus, not just to bark on that, I did call a representative for Jay Sekulow, and I talked to him. And I don't know if anything will be done, but it is being sent to their legal group.
Well, now, hold on. Mark Zuckerberg said he wasn't going to do any more censorship and no more shadow banning and all that.
And I know that a lot of people are getting sick of Facebook, and I know there's a lot of other great groups, but Facebook these private groups, they have been really, really effective. I mean, I have seen news that I couldn't find anywhere. Even on Rumble, I have found information, that Rumble didn't have. Well, but it's just sickening.
Well, it is, and you're dealing with a huge, giant company that really does have a vested interest in shadow banning, in censorship, in not letting part of the message permeate through. And I've seen it with my own posts. At sometimes it's pretty easy to get some of my links out to some of my shows. At others, man, you look at a post and it'll say post reach 10, when usually it'll be in the hundreds or if not thousands. So it's a big problem. But I think that if the only thing that it takes for the left to win is for conservatives to do nothing, to just sit back and take it. And so the most important thing we got to do is just not take it, not sit down, and just to continue fighting wherever we can. It's kind of a big joke. I tell people all the time, well, we're conservatives. If we didn't have a battle on our hands, we wouldn't know what to do. So, maybe this is just a continuation of what was happening during Joe Biden's time.
It is. And, there's 3 groups in Wyoming that have been very effective for counties like Sweetwater. That's where I'm at. And they cannot receive any news information. I can't post on there. A lot of groups I can't even comment on anymore, and the admins can't do anything about it.
Yeah,
I can message them.
Yeah, and it's the group that I monitor. It's, man, sometimes things go like wildfire, and then others you can tell that things have really been throttled. So, it's a big problem. But again, the only thing we can do is just keep fighting against it.
Right. Like Wyoming Politics, that's one group here in Wyoming. Wyoming Conservatives, that's another group. The Ben Page group, Bikers for Trump. They were people that, depended on information to come out about what's happening today in their communities.
Yeah.
And that's what's so sad about Facebook.
No, I completely agree. But, it's one of the reasons why it became so influential is the ease at which you could get information out. And, when the left realized what was happening, they're like, oh, crap, we got to shut that down. So, again, we just got to keep moving forward and just do what we can against it. And if that fails, then we'll find another way.
Yes. And I'm searching. Oh, and another thing, the plane.
Yeah.
Trump's Air Force One. That plane is 30 years old. That's something that was in the news briefly and rarely, and I only seen that in certain groups. I didn't see it on any national media or anything else.
Yep. That's one of the things. And the story I covered earlier, Boeing had been contracted to build 2 new planes in 2018. So, that was 7 years ago. And they're still saying that it'll be 2027 before they can get them done. I'm sorry, we can't wait that long for the president to have a new plane. 30 years, that plane's got a lot of miles on it. So, it's time to get a new one for sure.
Right, and he's one of the leading men in the world that's doing what's right.
Absolutely.
And thanks for listening to my rant.
It's all right, Jerry.
And God bless you, and God bless our republic.
Yep, have a good Memorial Day, my friend.
You too.
All right. If you want to be part of Cowboy State Politics Live, the phone number here in the Cowboy State Politics studio is 307-374-8989. 307-374-8989. It's Open Line Friday. Whatever's on your mind, go ahead and give me a call. When we come back, they told you that democracy was on the ballot, and then they asked you to vote for somebody who wasn't even in charge. We'll do that next.
U.S. Coin Capital, we hear from Americans across the United States who have a growing concern about the future purchasing power of U.S. paper money. Many Americans are looking for an alternative for long-term capital. For more than 35 years, the people at U.S. Coin Capital have educated American investors on how to properly accumulate United States gold and silver coins. Call us at 1-800-878-2646 or visit us on the web, uscoincapital.com.
Make sure that you subscribe and follow the Cowboy State Politics podcast. You can do that from the website, cowboystatepolitics.com, or anywhere that you get your podcasts. That way, you'll make sure that you won't miss a single episode of Cowboy State Politics.
Some say standing up for what you believe in is being extreme. Ask any woman in Wyoming. They'll tell you this is called courage. The mainstream media claims that holding the line on important issues is being unreasonable. My mom taught me this is called staying true to our principles. In other places, people argue you always have to compromise to get something done. Here in Wyoming, we know that some things are worth protecting at all costs. Some say it's time we give up on the values that made our state great to accommodate toxic culture. I say it's time to stand tall and protect the values that have served Wyoming well for over 134 years. Join Honor Wyoming as we defend and preserve the Wyoming way of life. Find out how you can make a difference today.
Visit honorwyoming.org. One of the things I missed most about President Trump is all of the incredible sound bites that you get from him. I mean, the guy is just a soundbite machine, and man, to have to go 4 years without him, 4 years without mean tweets, 4 years without him calling the media fake news. I guess he was still doing that when he wasn't president. But now the media really can't stop him. I guess they can, flip off to go to cover some other subject. But it is so much easier to get the crazy things that he says. Crazy is the wrong word. What I mean is amazing things. Here is one of them where he says that crap is over. Listen to this.
That woman was out of control. She was shoving federal agents. She was out of control. The days of that crap are over in this country. We're going to have law and order.
Now, obviously, he's referring to that idiot congresswoman that got charged from, tangling with ICE agents, as she rightfully should, by the way. If you interfere with any police officer, that's a pretty easy ticket to go to jail. It doesn't matter if you're a congresswoman or if you're, a judge or whatever. We got to have law and order. And like President Trump said, that crap is over. Oh, I have missed this, my friends. I have missed Big Daddy Trump. Anyway, so they told you that democracy was on the ballot and that you had to vote against Trump because if not, you were going to destroy the country. Oh, by the way, it is Open Line Friday on the show, 307-374-8989 if you want to be part of the program. 307-374-8989. Let me just tell you what happens when you call in. You're going to get an automated system, and you'll hear me say something to I don't remember how I put it, but it was, tell me who you are, where you're from, and what you want to talk about. And then you'll be able to listen to what's happening on the show, and then when I answer, then you'll talk to me. So there is a little bit of an automated thing there. But hey, I got to do that. I am the most talented guy in Wyoming media, but even I have some limitations and need a little automated help. So that's what's happening there. So anyway, they told you that you were voting for democracy. But the reality is, the guy they asked you to vote for was never really in charge. I think all of us pretty much know that now. And yesterday on the show, I told you that the most important thing that the Republicans could do is find out exactly who was running the country. I mean, who was in charge of that auto pen, who was making the decisions, because we know that it wasn't Joe Biden. And how many times did we hear him say, I can't do that because I'll get in trouble? Well, here's a little montage that I put together for you, just so you can we can remember what exactly was we were told was supposed to be running our country. Take a listen to this.
And that you didn't answer you. I'm not supposed to take any questions, but go ahead. I'm not supposed to be having this press conference. I'm not supposed to be answering all these questions. I'm going to get in trouble with my staff. Yeah, go ahead, but I pretend that you didn't answer you. I'm not supposed to take any questions, but go ahead.
We need you to move. We need you to move.
Thanks.
I better not start the questions. I'll get in trouble.
What's your message?
Let me close with this. There's a lot more I know we could talk about. I wish I had a chance to take all your questions, but I'm going to get in real trouble if I do that.
Who is the president of the United States going to get in trouble with? I mean, honestly, that guy can do anything he wants. I mean, I guess I'd break for law, but nobody else should be able to tell the president that he's in trouble or not. And yet they had Joe Biden convinced that that was what was going to happen. There's a new book out called Original Sin. Shocking breaking news moment that Jake Tapper reveals that Jake Tapper was covering up for Joe Biden. I mean, it is literally that ridiculous. And for the media to claim that nobody really was asking any questions about who was in charge of the country is equally disingenuous. So, I mean, here's just a montage of Peter Doocy asking Joe Biden, about his mental him and Karine Jean-Pierre about his mental condition. And so for the media to claim that nobody knew, it's really just one big fat lie. But here's a quick montage about Biden's brain. Listen to this.
We know the president says that his health is fine, but it's just his brain. And that he's sharpest before...
He was joking, by the way. I just want to make sure that that's out there. And he was making a lighthearted joke. As he was speaking he's speaking off the cuff.
At a fundraiser this week, President Biden told donors about how Charlottesville inspired his campaign, and then according to the pool, a few minutes later, he told the story again nearly word for word. What's up with that?
What I can tell you is, and I'm going to be careful not to talk about, because this was a campaign event for this upcoming campaign, obviously in 2024, so I'm not going to speak to that, put that out there for the Hatch Act. But what I can speak to is, look, the president was making very clear why he decided to run in 2019.
How is President Biden ever going to convince the 3/4 of voters who are worried about his physical and mental health that he is okay, even though in Las Vegas he told a story about recently talking to a French president who died in 1996?
I'm not even going to go down that rabbit hole with you,
Why?
sir.
We're going to go ahead. He said he talked to Mitterrand.
Go ahead. You saw the president in Vegas, in California.
Yeah.
You've seen the president in South Carolina.
President Biden is the oldest president in U.S. history. Why does White House staff treat him like a baby?
No one treats the president of the United States, the commander-in-chief, like a baby.
So there's this book that says
that's ridiculous.
When staff walked back
claim.
What sounded like a call for regime change in Russia, the president, quote, rather than owning his failure, he fumed to friends about how he was treated like a toddler. Was John Kennedy ever babied like that?
So look, I'll say this. There's going to be a range.
I think you get the point here. That over and over and over in the media, there were questions about Joe Biden's competency. And the media at large, not the conservative media, but CNN, ABC, NBC, PMSNBC, they all covered for him. And even people that were his former advisors covered for him. Here's Circle Back Jen Psaki. Listen to this one.
It's his interactions with people. He's incredibly empathetic. Yeah. He cares about, he loves to hold babies. He legitimately loves them. He likes to travel with members of Congress, said no one ever except for Joe Biden. So that you're not seeing. And because you're not seeing and the public is not seeing him and the magic of Joe Biden, you're relying on how is he going to answer the 9th question about his mental acuity at a press conference. And in that sense, the strategy is not going well.
Yeah. The magic of Joe Biden. All right. So nobody can claim that the media didn't know, except for, of course, Jake Tapper. So here's a piece from, this is from the Federalist, and I quote, over 200 Democrat insiders, including staffers, knew of Biden's decline for years and chose to do nothing about it. During the entire campaign leading up to former President Joe Biden's July 21st, 2024 withdrawal from the presidential race, he and his Democrat Party were telling the American people that, quote, democracy is on the ballot. Well, they continued that rhetoric through the end of the campaign once former Vice President Kamala Harris was undemocratically appointed the candidate. They initially wanted to sell the American people on the idea that they should vote for Biden, knowing it would be a vote for a grab bag of wannabe oligarchs jockeying for power, because the man cosplaying as president was mentally incapable of running the country. In March of 2024, California Democrats Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff had a discussion where Pelosi insisted that, quote, democracy is on the ballot. Your rights in every aspect of our lives, you will be affected. So we have to take responsibility for our democracy, for our country, for ourselves, and for our families. Schiff, almost as if projecting about the state of the Biden administration, cited, quote, a really powerful column that was absolutely chilling, which talks about what America would look like with an autocratic ruler. How we would no longer have a say in our affairs, how government would become fully corrupted, how we would not be choosing our representatives anymore, how policy decisions would not be made on the public's behalf, but only to preserve the power of a despot. Quote, part of what's necessary to preserve our democracy is making sure that the economy works for people, he continued, and no president, and I would say no speaker, has done more in the last several years than Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi. So over and over and over and over, we were told that Joe Biden was entirely fine. Don't worry. Don't worry about that. There's no big deal. Old Joe, Lunchbox Joe, he's doing just fine. He is running laps around everybody in the White House. And of course, all of us knew that it wasn't true at all, really. And so now for them to say that, oh man, we just didn't know. We just didn't see it. It's completely disingenuous and absolutely wrong. And, again, if you want to know whether or not the Democrats lie, just take any soundbite from Joe Biden and then play and just listen to what they say. They will claim, we had no idea. When I've got a Biden gaffe reel that's about 4 or 5 minutes long, all the crazy stuff that guy said, and it's not just cherry picked. The guy said it was like every week there was something new that Joe Biden was saying that was absolutely 100% off his rocker. And so nobody can really claim, not even Jake Tapper, can claim that this was hidden, that we didn't know this. They attempted to hide it. They attempted to deceive the American people. But in reality, none of it was successful. And, now they need to pay the price for it. And like I said on yesterday's program, the most important thing that the Republicans can do is find out who was running the country. This is a scandal of historic proportions. By historic proportions, this is way bigger than Woodrow Wilson and Edith Wilson. Edith Wilson was Woodrow Wilson's wife. And after he had a stroke, many people said that she was running the country, which she absolutely was. Even if you read her memoir, she was absolutely the person making decisions in the White House. And while they tried to hide that, they did hide it from the American people for months. That was at a time where we didn't have the giant megaphone of the media that we have right now, where, information travels across the country in a nanosecond. And, we have constant communications, and it is pretty hard for anybody to get away with anything. That was a very, very different time. And after his term was over, even though some Democrats wanted Woodrow Wilson to run for a third term, he declined. Well, he and Edith Wilson declined, and they retired. Now, the Democrats didn't do that. They knew that Joe Biden wasn't capable of running the country, and they still ran him for president again. And then when they realized that it didn't work, then they had to go with the idiot Kamala Harris. And, I mean, it is a perfect example of how the Democrats will lie to you. They will cheat. They will steal. And even when they're grilled about their dishonesty, they still won't admit it because, I mean, that's what they do. They're Democrats. They're fundamentally dishonest. So anyway, but there is hope, my friends. There are some people in Congress that are absolutely committed to finding the root of all of our problems. And one of the big ones, and I think that you would agree with this, is Trump derangement syndrome. Now, this has been far more pervasive than COVID ever dreamed of being. We have people that are absolutely off their rocker, and they can't see reason, and there has to be a cause behind it. And so one congressman is introducing a bill directing the National Institute of Health, now that we have control of them, to study something that actually matters, the origins of Trump derangement syndrome. From the Daily Wire, in an article entitled GOP Bill Tasks NIH with Finding Patient Zero of Trump Derangement Syndrome. And I quote, "What are the origins of Trump derangement syndrome? House Republicans would like scientists to find out." Representative Warren Davidson of Ohio introduced a bill directing the National Institutes of Health to conduct or support research to advance the understanding of the phenomenon characterized by intense emotional and cognitive reactions to President Donald Trump. The bill, entitled the Trump Derangement Syndrome Research Act of 2025, says early documented references emerged during Trump's 2016 presidential campaign, including certain media coverage amplifying polarized responses to his rhetoric. And I'm sure you've all been witness to somebody who is afflicted with Trump derangement syndrome on a daily basis. I run into people, even in the Cowboy state politics hometown of Sheridan. Well, actually, hometown is Buffalo, but we've moved our headquarters. Now our hometown of Sheridan. I run into people with Trump derangement syndrome almost on a daily basis. In fact, there are semi-periodic protests downtown in Grinnell Plaza where if you want to find some people with Trump derangement syndrome, that, my friends, is the place to go. You will be confronted with the most stupefying idiocy that you could possibly ever imagine. The most incredible ignorance of actual facts. The most amazing stupid people you've ever met. Well, now, so this bill notes that, quote, the precise origins remain understudied. That is, the origins of Trump derangement syndrome. One of the research documented cases, commonly referred to as patient zero or index cases of TDS, including historical and social analyses to trace the onset of TDS. Known for his bombastic personality and commentary, Trump has long been a polarizing figure with a large number of supporters and critics. But some people have taken anti-Trump stances to such extremes as warning that there is a, quote, Trump crime cult wanting, quote, people to die, and in Congress offering perpetual impeachment proposals. I mean, it's Tuesday or it's Friday, so it must be time for another impeachment. It's a day that ends in Y, which means liberal Democrats are again trying to impeach the president for delivering on the will of the people. Senator Mark Wayne Mullin said recently in response to yet another impeachment bid. TDS is strong, but MAGA is stronger. Now, I know that I'm kind of making fun of this, but the truth is, it is no more ridiculous than Trump derangement syndrome itself. There's no reason why we shouldn't study why people are so crazy about Trump derangements, with their Trump derangement syndrome. I mean, there are some people you talk to them and they can't even see any sort of reason out of any of their insanity. They just hate Trump so much that it doesn't matter what you say, what facts they're presented with, or what video evidence you show them. They still will not agree that, that they're absolutely insane. So anyway, there's a bill in Congress. Maybe we can get the National Institute of Health to study Trump derangement syndrome. One can only hope. Well, my friends, that pretty much burns up everything in the stack of stuff for today's Friday episode, the last day before Memorial Day. Now, I started out the program kind of giving you a brief roadmap of where we're going. So let me just do that quickly one more time. We will have an episode of the podcast tomorrow on Saturday. However, we will not have an episode on Monday, and there will be no Cowboy State Politics on Tuesday as the lovely Christine and I will be traveling. Don't come on, give me a break. Even I have to take a vacation, even a short one, every now and again. So we're going to do that over Memorial Day weekend. So for now, my friends, have a great and safe Memorial Day weekend. And just remember what it is that we're celebrating on Memorial Day. It's all of the folks that have fought and died for this country. And the truth is, just about everybody knows at least one person that was killed in service, or they have a family member who passed away who did serve in the military. We've got lots in the Iverson family. Now the Master Chief, and of course the real boss of the outfit, my mother-in-law. She was also in the military. So anyway, every family's probably got somebody. So take some time to reflect on what it takes to defend this country. Take some time to give thanks to those people who have the courage to step up and defend your rights. Because in the end, my friends, we, as Ronald Reagan said, we are only one step away from extinction. This great country was given to us, but we can only keep it if we fight for it. So on Monday, Memorial Day, and actually every day of the week, the whole weekend, make sure you reflect on what it takes to maintain your freedom. So for now, from the base of the Bighorns, I'm David Iverson, and this is Cowboy State Politics. Have a good weekend, my friends. I'll see you on Wednesday.